Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening all. Welcome back to Swaroop IT Learning Solutions. Now, in this particular video series, we are currently learning how to install and configure Linux Mint version 22. So we have already covered the part 1 and part 2 videos. So we will practically execute following steps in part 3 video. This is current part 3 video. First, we will be applying some personalization settings in Linux Mint. So what all we will be doing to personalize our Linux Mint? We will be setting up our desktop wallpaper and we will be setting up our login screen background. Okay, so these are two different backgrounds. While logging to your Linux Mint, you may choose a different background, and once the desktop is loaded, then the desktop background or desktop wallpaper, it might be a different one. So we'll be doing both the settings, and then in the second part we'll be doing the virtualization setup through Linux Mint 22. So through virtualization, what we'll be doing? So first we'll be enabling the virtualization capabilities in Linux Mint 22. Since our Linux Mint 22 itself is a VM through Hyper-V, so we need to enable the nested virtualization. So we will see how to enable those nested virtualization capabilities so that we can configure our Linux Mint as a virtualization server. Okay. So next is we'll be installing our KVM, that is kernel based virtual machine environment server in Linux Mint 22. So just let me give you a brief idea about KVM. Just like your Hyper-V in Microsoft or in VMware it is ESX, through Linux it is KVM. So they have developed a virtualization server called KVM. So in any Linux OS distribution, you can install KVM as a package or as a feature, and you can run that particular Linux system as a virtualization host. Okay, and one more important update: any Linux OS distribution, you can configure it for your desktop use, or you can configure it for as a server usage also. That means Red Hat Linux, SUSE Linux, Ubuntu, your this Linux Mint, all those OS distributions are not completely client or not completely server operating systems, unlike Microsoft. Microsoft Windows Server is a server operating system, and Windows 10 or Windows 11 is a client operating system. Straight away this differentiation is there, but in Linux it is not that much completely differentiated. A normal OS distribution they are releasing, and you can install packages and features. Then after installing those packages, you can use that particular operating system as your server environment also, or as your client also. Okay, I hope I'm clear with this. So we'll be installing our KVM, that is hypervisor host role or hypervisor role feature in our Linux Mint. Okay, and afterwards then we'll be of course installing either Windows 10 or Windows 11 OS. Most probably I will install Windows 11 OS as a virtual machine through KVM. Okay, so that will be a nested VM inside VM. Okay, so let's start this particular part 3 video. So step 1, through Linux Mint Linux administration, copy a couple of picture files from Windows Share which we have mapped earlier, and paste it in your home Linux admin documents folder. Okay, so I'm going back to my Linux Mint system. I'm logging with my Linux admin account, and if you remember in part 2 we have mapped our particular Windows share, that is automated share. So whenever I'm booting it, it is automatically coming as my mount point. Having said that, your particular Windows system should be on, otherwise it will not able to access that particular share. Okay, so this is my particular share. So I'm going to this folder, and there are various picture files I have just downloaded, Ganesh pics as my this thing. So I'm copying couple of files, simple copy. I'm going to the document. This is my local folder of my Linux Mint, and I'm pasting it. Okay, so these are my background files. I will use it. Okay, next step is, so through Linux Mint, Linux Administration, right click on previously copied any picture file and set it as wallpaper. So let's say I want to set this as my wallpaper, so I will simply right click and I will say set as wallpaper. Simple. Okay, so the wallpaper is set, but somehow it's scaling, or the resolution is not as per my screen. So let's see how we can change this. So minimize this. So next step is, through your Linux Mint Linux administration, right click on the empty space of desktop and select change desktop background, and then go to the settings. I will right click it. I will go to the change desktop background. I will go to the settings. Okay. Then next step is change the picture aspects and your background color as per your preference. So I'm choosing my background color first of all as red. Let's say my choice. And the picture aspect I will choose it as center. Let's see, or the scaled one is better, I think. And now I will close it. So you can see now the whole wallpaper is visible as well as the background. So this is okay for me. You can change according to your preference, according to your choice, whatever you may call it. Okay. And one more thing I need to highlight over here, this is a virtual machine running inside my Hyper-V. So there may be some restrictions for the display settings and all. If you are directly running on your laptop or desktop Linux Mint as your base OS, as your real OS, then your display setting might be more appropriate, more preferable. Okay, so that one thing I need to highlight over here. So as of now, this display setting is okay for me for this particular virtual machine. Okay, so we have completed this particular step. So kindly visualize the wallpaper output as sideline figure. So we have already done this. Now next step is, we need to set our login background also. Now whenever I'm logging, this particular black screen and Linux Mint window, this particular background is coming. But let's say I want to change it. So how to change it? There is a tricky part over here. You cannot change it with Linux admin account, because you need to copy some files from your network share to your root account. Okay, so I need to log off from my current session root account. Okay, so I'm logging off. Let me close this, and then there is a log off option. I will say log off. Okay, the next part is, before the sixth step, copy the picture file which you need to your login screen. In this particular /user /share /background /linux mint. This folder path we need to copy our background. But before that, first of all, we need to log in with the root account. So how to log in with the root account? Click on login and click on root. Type on root as your username and password of your root account. Now how to enable this particular root account, how to set up the password, and how to log in with the root account, all these topics I have covered in part 1. So you may choose to see the part 1 for this whole root account enabling procedure. Okay, So now currently I have logged in with the root account. Now I need to copy couple of background files, right? So in a particular folder. So what I need to do is I need to remap my Windows share through root account also, right? So I need to type in that particular whole command uh, in this particular command prompt. So let me just pause this video and let me just type this whole command, and before entering it I am coming back to you. Just give me a minute. Okay, so I have just entered this particular command, and I have mapped that Windows share in my MNT folder. I have created this new folder under root session, and I have mapped my Windows share. Now what command I have entered, how I have mapped this particular Windows share, everything you can see in my previous part 2 video. So I will not go detail into that one. So again I am going to my picture folder, and I am copying this particular background. Let's say I want this background as my login screen background, so I will copy this, and let's go back to our PPT and see which is the path which we need to copy. So we need to copy into /user/share/background/Linux Mint, right? So from here only, since I have already copied, I will close this. From here only I will type user/share/backgrounds/Linux Mint, right? This is the folder, and I will paste it. Okay, so this is where we need to paste. Remember, we have logged in with our root session, because using the Linux Mint session, the Linux admin session, it will not allow us to paste this particular any external file or any modification into this particular folder. Okay, this is a restricted folder, so that's why we have logged in with the root account. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Now next step is very important. Lots of IT guys is missing this. I have seen documents and all. So verify that the root account is having appropriate rights. Those rights are owner plus read write on the picture file, which you need to set as your Windows login screen. If required, set it so. So we will go back to our path, and we will go to the properties of this particular file. We will go to the permissions, and you can see over here it is read only. So I will say read write, access also read write, right? Who owns this file? Root owner, and group also owner. Access is also read write. So these are the permissions we need to set, because every time when the system is booting, by default all the rights are coming into picture as root level rights. Okay, so now we have set this particular rights. I will say close. Then through your Linux Mint search option, we need to go to the login window. Okay, so now close this also, and through search I will type login. So login window option will come. So here, so through login window, background, again background option, select your entitled picture and click open. So here under the background option, there is another background option is here. Here you can set your new picture. You can see the default background is already selected over here, but I will change to this one. Okay, and I will say open. Okay, background color also I can change, right? I will say select. Okay, and now I will close this. So next is we need to restart our Linux Mint. and you should be able to see your preferred picture within your login window. So let's see. So now we have set up. I will restart my Linux Mint. Now you can see the login screen is coming as my background picture, my preferred picture. Okay, and then now you can log in over here, right? So I will click on Linux Mint and I will enter my password. So we have changed two settings. We have done the wallpaper first and then the login screen background. Both the backgrounds we have changed according to our personal choice, right? So this completes your personalization session. Now next is your virtualization, KVM. This is the main part of this particular video. So what is the administrative checklist for KVM virtualization setup in Linux Mint 2022? What are the steps we will be carrying out? So first, we will install pending updates on our Linux Mint 22 system. Your Linux Mint 22 system should be absolutely updated before going for the KVM installation. Okay. Next is install KVM prerequisites and dependencies. So we will be actually installing our KVM package prerequisites and dependencies and KVM package itself. Then third is we will be of course launching our KVM virtualization server through our GUI mode. Then we will be actually adding our virtualization storage for Linux Mint. That means we will be not storing our virtual machines on our default system partition. We will be creating another secondary partition. And last is of course we will be installing our Windows 10 or Windows 11 OS through our KVM. So this will be our administrative checklist for our KVM virtualization. Every step will be explained in detail with the practical outcome. So let's move to the first part, next step, step 11. So through Linux Mint, your Linux administration terminal, run the following command: sudo apt update. Okay. So sudo apt update, this particular command will scan your system for the pending updates. It will only show that what all the updates are still pending, how many packages can be upgraded at this particular time. We want that information. So let's see sudo apt update. Sorry. So there is no hyphen in between. Okay. So now in order to work for this particular command, you need to first of all connect to your internet, because it will go to your particular web link where it will scan your system. Okay. So now you can see the results. 14 packages can be upgraded. Run apt list / upgradable to see them. As of now, we don't want to go into detail for these 14 packages. We want to install them straight away. Okay. So what will be our next command? So note down the packages update information. So you can see the 14 packages can be upgraded. This is our package upgrade information. Next. So this is the step what we are currently doing, installing updates and upgrades on Mint Linux system. So next is through Linux Mint terminal, run following command: sudo apt upgrade /-y. So clear this particular screen. Sudo apt upgrade -y. Okay, let me see if this is the correct command. Sudo apt upgrade -y. Yes, and here pressing enter, and now it is downloading and updating all my pending packages. Okay, so this is a simple update or upgrade process, you may call it. Okay, so now this is done. So it has not prompted us for the password because we have disabled it through our Linux script, if you remember in the previous part. So that's fine. The next is after the upgrade finishes, close the terminal window and shut down the Linux Mint operating system by entering sudo shutdown. So this is one way of shutting down the machine through command. Now from now onwards I will try to use uh, commands, more commands rather than the GUI mode. The GUI mode we all know, if you are a Windows guy, go to your shutdown option and shut down. But the command, let's say sudo shutdown, enter. So it will not directly shut down, it will schedule the shutdown for next 1 minute. Okay, so we will wait for 1 minute and it will automatically shut down. If you want to cancel this, then you can type this command shutdown -c. Okay, so it will cancel that particular schedule. So currently it is 1:53, so it will shut down our machine by 1:54:09. By the time it is shutting down, let's verify the next step, what we need to do. Okay, so next we will be actually installing our additional storage in Linux Mint OS. Okay, now why do we require second hard disk? As I said, we will be not storing our virtual machines on our system partition, our Linux Mint system partition. So we are requiring additional storage. We need to actually add this second hard disk. So you can see in the background this Linux Mint system got shut down. So next step is through your Hyper-V manager, Hyper-V base machine, Windows 2022 base, Hyper-V manager, Linux Mint VM settings, select ID control 0, hard drive and add. I will come back to my desktop and through Hyper-V manager, I will go to the settings. Remember this is in off state now. Why? Because this is generation 1 VM. So if the machine is on, it will not allow us to add the hard disk. If it is generation 2, it will allow, but this is generation 1 because it's a Linux one. So I'm going to ID control 0 and I will select hard drive. I will say add, say new, and I will choose VHDX. I will say dynamically expanding, and then I will give the name as Linux Mint _d. Okay, and location I will choose as my VM. Go to the VM virtual hard disk, select next. I will give it as in 100 GB. Next, before clicking on finish, let's go back to our PPT and let's verify those steps whatever we have done. So first we have clicked on ID control 0 and through hard drive addition click new. We have done that. And then through hard drive addition select following criteria. Disk format will be VHDX, that we have done. Disk type will be dynamic. Disk name will be Linux _mint_d, that we have already defined. And disk location will be our Linux Mint VM location, and size will be 100 GB. So everything we have selected as per our criteria. You can see over here everything is on. Finally I will click on finish. Now you can see the second hard drive is added. Okay, I will say apply. Okay, so click finish, that we have done. So next step is start the Linux Mint OS and log in with your Linux admin account, of course. So I'm starting this. I'm logging with my Linux admin account. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So through Linux Mint start menu, search option, type disk and open disk menu. So to start, I will type disks. I will open the disk menu. Okay. So next step is through your disk menu, select the second hard disk which you have just added and click on settings icon and select format partition. Okay, so this is our secondary hard disk. You can see this is the unknown partition type as of now. This will be this is our system partition. So don't change anything, don't do anything over here. Go to the second partition. Here I will click on this setting icon and there is an option called format partition. Okay, it's a simple procedure. So next is, of course, we need to give the volume name through format volume menu. Enter the volume name and click next. So I will just give the name. Now one thing I just need to clear, there is no C drive or D drive in your Linux systems. It is called volume slash etc slash 01, then slash etc 01 or slash etc 02. But since I'm a Windows guy, I'm more familiar with the C drive or D drive. So just for my better understanding, I'm giving that volume name. But in Linux, you can give any name, whatever you want. Okay. So here we don't want to enable the erase option. We want to format it. Okay, so I will say next. So it will give me a warning, all data on the volume will be lost. So on confirm details warning page, click format. So finally I will click format. It will ask me for my Linux admin password. Enter your Linux admin account password to authenticate. And you can see now it is formatted and it is showing me the extended of partition number 4. Okay, so next is through Linux Mint file explorer menu, click on devices and then click on Linux Mint D and create a folder structure as follow. So we need to create main folder as VMs. Under VMs I will be creating one more folder ISO, and then under VMs I will be creating one more folder OS. Okay, so let's go to our file menu. I'll close this disk menu. I'll go to my file explorer, and here you can see over here the Linux Mint drive under devices. Linux Mint drive is there. So I will create the folder structure. This will be our storage structure for our virtual machine. So I will create VMs, then I will create ISO, and I will create OS. Okay, so this will be our basic virtualization folder structure. And then of course under the OS also we need to create one more folder called Windows 11, because we will be actually creating our virtual machine for Windows 11. Create a new folder. So Win11. We'll be installing our Windows 11 machine inside. We will be storing our virtual machine inside this Windows 11 machine. Okay. So what will be our next step? So through Linux Mint Windows share, which we have mapped earlier, copy the Windows 11 OS ISO in /media / mint d VM's ISO folder. Okay, so we'll go back here and I will go to the ISO folder, and here our Windows share has already been mapped. I will click on mount and I will click on my Windows 11 ISO, copy, I will say paste in the ISO folder of Linux Mint D. Okay, so using this particular ISO, we will be actually installing our virtual machine. How to install those machines and everything is coming into later part now. So this ISO has been copied now. Next part is shut down the Linux Mint OS by entering sudo shutdown. So either we can put on sudo shutdown or either we can directly shut down. Again, it will take 1 minute, so I don't want that. I will directly shut down from here. Okay, so currently it is shut down. Next step is through your Windows 22 base Hyper-V host PowerShell admin mode, enter following command. What command we need to enter? Set VM processor, then VM name will be our VM name, then expose virtualization extensions is equal to true or $true. Okay, so this whole command we need to enter. What I am doing is I am copying this command straight away so that we don't have to type it all the way. I am going back to my desktop and here is my PowerShell. I will run it as an administrator mode. Yes, and I will directly paste this. Okay, remove space. So I'm just explaining this particular command. Set VM processor, VM name Linux Mint 22, expose virtualization extensions true. Our this particular Linux Mint is a VM itself under Hyper-V. So it is having a virtual CPU. So if this particular command is not entered, it will not allow us to create a nested virtual machine inside our virtual machine. So we are actually enabling nested virtualization for our virtual machine Linux Mint 22 through this particular command. So VM processor means the virtual machine processor. Which processor? For this particular VM's processor Linux Mint 22. I am exposing virtualization extension. That means I am exposing this virtual machine's processor for the virtualization. Okay, in true, and I am keeping enter. Now this command is completed. Nothing will happen. It will not give any error or any message, but the command is completed. Now I will minimize this or I will close this, and next step should be we will be starting our Linux Mint system again. So start the Linux Mint system and log in with Linux admin account. Now why we have shut down this particular OS? Because that command will fail if this particular VM is already in running state. Okay, so I'm starting now and I'm logging with my Linux admin account once this is started. Entering the command. So now our Linux Mint OS is ready for the virtualization. Since our Linux Mint is already a VM, so we need to enable the nested virtualization. But if you are installing your Linux Mint directly on your base system, directly on your hardware, so no need to enter this command. You can directly install the KVM server. I hope you got my point. Okay, so now my machine is ready for the virtualization, nested virtualization. Now next step is through Linux Mint terminal, enter following command. Which command we need to enter? So apt install bridge dash utils virch manager. Virch manager is like a virtual manager for the KVM installation. Okay, so let's go back to our machine. Let's open our terminal window and let's enter this command. Let me verify this command. Sometimes I'm entering wrong commands, so let me verify this. Apt install bridge utils. So apt install. So you can see I'm pressing tab, so it will automatically complete this bridge utils, and then after that words manager. So I will type word dash manager. Okay, so this is our command. It will install our KVM package, our virtual manager server package, KVM. Okay, I will say enter, and then it will ask me again for the confirmation. Do you want to continue? We need to press the Y over here. So press Y to continue with installation. So I will say Y and enter. So now it is actually installing our KVM server on our Linux Mint system. Okay. So this is a simple command, this is a simple procedure, but many of the guys don't know. Even before creating this particular video series, I was not aware of how to install the KVM and all. I have learned all those things. I'm happy to share with you guys. So currently it is installing all the dependencies, all the packages related to your KVM, kernel based virtual machine manager, equal to your Microsoft Hyper-V, equal to your VMware ESX, virtualization host server packages, right? Many of you may be asking this question again and again, since Linux Mint is a client operating system, how can you install the KVM server role? So as I said earlier, there is no differentiation between client and server for the operating systems based on Linux distributions. You can use your Linux Mint as a server also, you can use Ubuntu as a server also, you can use Red Hat also as your server, and all those operating system as your client also. Okay, so we have installed our KVM. Okay, so we have already monitored the KVM installation process. So restart your Linux Mint OS once KVM installation finishes. So this is my best practice, although it is not asking, but I am always installing any major feature. I am restarting my OS once, at least once. I am restarting it just to make sure that my installation is completed properly. Then relogging with my Linux admin. Okay, so now our KVM server installation has been done. Let's move on to the next step. The next step is through your Linux Mint terminal session, you need to enter the following command: sudo virtual manager. Okay, so why sudo? Sudo means just like in Windows we are running as a admin mode. In Linux, your sudo command stands for your admin mode. Okay, super user mode. So I need to run my virtual machine in super user mode so that it will have all the permissions in place while creating our virtual machine. Okay, otherwise it will give you couple of messages, you don't have permission for this folder, that folder and all. So we don't want that. So I'm going back to my machine and I'm entering the command sudo virtual manager. Okay, before entering this, let me show you one more option over here. go to the start, and in the search box you can type virtual, and you can see over here the virtual machine manager. But as I said, if I'm clicking this, it will give me some 2-3 error messages that you don't have permission and your virtual machine will fail and all these things. So I don't want that. So that's why I'm running through my admin mode through terminal. So sudo virtual machine manager or volt-manager, enter. Now you can see my virtual machine manager window has been opened. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. So next step is through your virtual machine manager, click on file and then click on new virtual machine. So I will click on file, I will say new virtual machine. So it will give me various choices over here. What are those various choices? Local install through ISO image, we can choose to install the OS. If you are having any network installation source, HTTP, HTTPS or FTP, you can choose that one over here. You can import the existing disk image which may have been created earlier using KVM only, or you can manually choose all the options. So as of now, let's see what all option we need to choose. So next is through create a new virtual machine step 1 of 5 window. So you can see over here it is showing step 1 of 5 window over here. So in this step, select the local install media ISO image or CD-ROM option and click forward. Okay, so we'll select this first option in the step 1 of 5. I will say forward. Next is through create a new virtual machine step 2 of 5 window, click on browse and browse local and select the ISO which we have copied in step number 27, that is previous step. So we need to choose our Windows 11 ISO over here. So if you remember, we have copied it on our Linux Mint D drive, the secondary partition. So I will click on browse local and I will go to the other locations. Let's see whether I can get that other location from somewhere. I should be, just a minute. So I am clicking on the other locations over here, and now Linux Mint D is visible. So I'm selecting that one. I'm going to the VMs folder and I'm going to the ISO. Okay, and I'm selecting this particular ISO now because we need to use this particular ISO for installing our virtual machine. Okay, and be remember, if you are not able to see this particular Linux Mint D, you can go to the media and then the whole path I have mentioned over here. Click on browse and select the local select ISO file. Okay, in the step 27. So let me just show you, because I was getting some time to get this particular path since I have only created. This is the path. Okay, slash media slash linux admin slash linux mint dvms ISO, right? So we will again go back to our step number 38 and we will choose this particular ISO. Okay, and I will say open over here. Okay, now you can see over here it is detecting, depending upon the ISO we have just mapped, it is detecting what is the operating system we can install through this ISO, but we don't require that option because it will take some time. We will choose by ourselves manually, also we can choose it. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. So still on create a new virtual machine, step 2 of 5 window, deselect the automatically detect from the installation media slash source slash option. Okay, so I am deselecting this deselecting this. Okay, and now the next step will be, we need to manually type over here Windows 11 or something like that, but let's see. So next step is, in the search box type Windows 11 and select Microsoft Windows 11 and click forward. So I'm typing manually over here Windows 11. Okay, so you can see Microsoft Windows 11. I will choose this. I will say forward. So this is fine, the permissions one, because we are running into root mode or sudo mode. So I will say yes over here, but let me just go back to my PPT. So click yes on emulator permission warning. So I will say yes. Okay. So next is through create a new virtual machine, step number 3, assign appropriate memory and number of CPUs to your virtual machine and click forward. So I will assign 16 GB RAM, 16384, and CPU will be 1, will be file. Next, so through create a new virtual machine, step 4 of 5 window, select following options. So the disk size will be selecting 100 GB, and select or create a custom storage, then click on manage and then browse local and then media Linux admin, Linux Mint D, and then in the VMs folder we have created OS and then Windows 10 23H2. So we will be selecting that folder. So I will say 100 GB. Okay, and select a custom storage, manage, and then I will go to the browse local, other locations, Linux Mint, VMs, OS, Windows 11. Okay. Here I will just type as Windows 11 underscore 23H2. This will be my HDD name. So this will be my HDD name. I will say open. Okay. So I am selecting my custom storage over here, what we have created in Linux Mint. Click on forward. So next step will be, now in the screenshot it may be for the Windows 10 because I have created Windows 10 at the time, but we are creating now Windows 11. So create a new virtual machine, step 5 window, review all VM options and click finish. So I will say forward, all the options, Windows 11, Microsoft Windows 11 and all that thing, memory 16 GB and your storage is customized storage one, Linux Mint. Okay, I will say finish. It is creating my virtual machine now and it should automatically start, and you can see it is asking for boot from the CD, and now it is booting from my ISO and it is creating my virtual machine inside KVM. Okay, this procedure might look very easy because straightforwardness, I have explained every step and all, but remember there are a couple of tricks over here. First of all, you need to enable the nested virtualization capabilities. Second of all, you always need to run your KVM virtual machine manager in sudo mode, that is your administrative mode, so that the emulator permissions and other errors will go up. I hope I'm clear. So next is as usual the Windows 11 OS installation and all. So I will not go deep into it. It's a straightforward operating system installation of Windows 11. Okay, but remember this is through KVM we are installing, right? So I don't have a product key. Let me just start the installation, and then we will go back to our manual steps. Accept the agreement. Next. Custom 100 GB it is showing. Next. And now it is actually installing our Windows 11 machine. Okay. So this is how you can install virtual machine inside your KVM through Linux Mint. So next step, we will be verifying after some time, start and finish the Windows 11 VM's OS installation as usual. Okay. So I'm pausing this video for a while. Once this OS installation gets completed, I will come back to you with the last step. So finally we have completed our Windows 11 installation through KVM. You can see over here the Windows 11 virtual machine is in running state, and this is the console of your machine. Virtual machine, a nested virtual one. So if I'm double clicking it, it will go to the maximize mode. I'm clicking view. If I'm making it as a full screen mode, so this is my Windows 11. Okay, so if I'm just running the winver command, it will show me the current Windows 11 23H2 version and all. So this particular virtual machine running in a full screen mode is actually a nested virtualization machine which is running inside my Linux Mint OS as an KVM virtual machine through KVM hypervisor virtual machine, right? So this is how you can install the virtual machine. So the virtual setup is completed. Currently I am just switching it off. And let me just show you the basic settings of our virtual machine once this shuts down, and then we will complete this particular video number 3. One thing I noticed over here is actually by default it is taking your network adapter, the KVM virtual machine I'm talking about, it is taking your virtual adapter as a NAT, so it will automatically get the internet access. Also, if your Linux Mint OS is having internet access, your VM will also automatically get the internet access through NAT, that is your network address translation network adapter. Okay, so that's why it took a long time while doing the installation. It was updating my operating system also, it was installing the updates also, and now you can see while shutting it down it is applying my updates also. So anyways, that's one of the thing I need to share with you. So this is completely now shut off, and you can go to the edit mode and you can go to the virtual machine details, and you can click on the show virtual hardware details over here, and you can see over here the NIC is working as a default NAT technology, right? So other settings are there, overview, OS information, performance, and other settings as for your virtual machines. So this is how you can configure your virtualization through your Linux Mint. Okay, and don't forget this is running on your KVM platform. Okay, kernel based virtual machine manager, this is what they are calling in Linux distribution. You can install it on SUSE also, you can install it on Ubuntu also, you can install it on Red Hat also, whatever distribution you may like. I have installed on Linux Mint. Okay, so this completes our this particular video number 3. So in the upcoming part 4 video of this particular administrating Linux Mint 22 series, we will cover following topics. So what are the upcoming topics for it? So we'll be backing up and restoring our Linux Mint with snapshot provision. So first we will backing up and restoring our profile data you're using a default backup tool. Then I will show you how to set up the snapshot configuration for the first time in Linux Mint 22. You can take a complete OS snapshot. Snapshot means the last saved copy of your data, of your files, of your boot configuration, like that. So we'll be setting up our snapshot configuration. Then next is we will be creating a one-time snapshot manually in Linux Mint 22. I will show you how to manually create a one-time snapshot, and then what are the schedules, what are the default settings for those snapshot. We will verify that one also. And then after taking the snapshot, we will be testing it with the restoration process. We will delete a couple of files and we will restore the snapshot, and we will check if those deleted files have been restored or not. Okay, so thank you all for your time for watching this particular video. This is your host from Swaroop IT Solutions. If you like this particular video, do share it and please subscribe to this channel. Thanks all again from the Swaroop IT Solutions. Have a good day.